Hello and welcome to part 8 of my Hogwarts MOC series. As promised, today we're going to be taking another look at the whole Hogwarts castle, or at least what I've built so far, and just take a look at how everything fits together again in a little bit more detail, as well as taking a look at the changes that I've made which haven't featured in any of my update videos. There are a couple of major things that I've changed. The first thing being the boathouse, and the second being a little bit more of an extensive change to the entire rockwork underneath the castle. So we'll start off with the boathouse because that's just one single thing, and I can show you that in a little bit more detail now. So here is the boathouse. Now, looking at it, you might not think that anything has changed, and you'd almost be right because the changes I've made have been very small. The probably most obvious thing is the spire that I've added on top of the boathouse. I'll just move the camera up a little bit. Now, the model of the Hogwarts castle at the Warner Brothers Studios tour, which is the model that was used in the first through to the 6th film, has got a spire on top. When I originally designed it, and as I originally stated in the video where I looked at the boathouse and the courtyard and the viaduct, I didn't want to include that spire, partly because I felt it interfered with your view of the courtyard. Because of one of the other changes that I've made, I actually decided that a spire was something I could include, and I went through so many different variations of what I wanted it to look like. Just turn it to the side so you can see how it attaches. It's very simple. It's actually not much of a spire. It's just a couple of cone pieces with one of those minifigure ski poles on top. The reason I kept it short was for the original reason of not interfering with the courtyard, but I felt that I needed some sort of ornament on top, which was a little bit more than just the small cone I had on a jumper plate at the front there. Weirdly, I tried lots of other different variations with round bricks and things inside there, but the shape just didn't look quite right. I think because the actual tower is meant to be a little bit wider, it's probably the equivalent of about 3 studs wide, whereas this is 2 studs. Unfortunately, as a lot of you will know, Lego doesn't make a lot of 3-stud wide pieces, especially round ones, so I had to settle for this, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. The other major thing that I changed was to remove the clock from the front here. The only reason I put it on there in the first place was to break up the detail on the front there rather than just having a complete expanse of blank bricks. But I realised I didn't quite like it, so I've changed it out for one of these textured bricks, but I kept it in tan rather than the medium nougat. And I think the overall effect is really nice. I've also, this is a very, very small change, I've raised the entire roof up by 1 plate in height. I just felt like doing it. It doesn't make a huge difference. We'll just slide this non-interloper back into the boathouse. Yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference, but I think I prefer it. The other thing you'll notice that I've done to the boathouse is to add some blue plates around the bottom. So you can see them on this side here, and they go all around to the other side and along here. Now, this is my representation of water around the castle. Obviously, for the boathouse, that's very important, but it's part of one of my other major projects, and that is to raise the entire castle by 1 brick in height. Now, this doesn't mean that I've actually made any changes to the buildings themselves. In fact, apart from the boathouse, they've all remained pretty much the same. What it actually means is that I've added an extra layer of bricks underneath the big ugly rock pieces that form the rockwork under the castle. So they're actually 7 bricks and 1 plate off the ground rather than 6 bricks and 1 plate. And the reason for that is all to do with one particular piece from the Hogwarts Moment Potions classroom, which is that arched doorway. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video that I made about that. Anyway, that is 7 bricks tall, and I really wanted to include it. And I just couldn't think of a way of doing that without raising the entire castle. So I thought I might as well do it now when only some of the rockwork is complete, so that everything will be future-proofed, as it were. At the same time, I decided to add water to the entire castle, at least around the front, so you can see I've added it all the way along here, as well as, I'll just move the boat out of the way, as well as the bridge going across it. We'll just take a closer look at that now. So there we are, you can see I've added water to each individual pillar in the bridge. The reason I didn't just do one single piece across there, or in fact why I didn't just do the entire surface in blue is partly because of the weird angle that this is attached at. I know it's only 45 degrees, but that does bring a whole host of problems. But I just decided that it looked better with individual details, and it's allowed me to include some rocks and things around the base just as a bit of variation to spice things up. I'm quite happy with the result there. I might change things a little bit in future, but the overall appearance is really good. You can see I've also been working on the rockwork behind the bridge there. This is all part of the quad building, and I will actually be showing that in my next update because that is where I have built my potions classroom. I won't show you that for now, just to keep it as a bit of a surprise, but I have finished the rockwork along the back there and underneath the stone bridge. The next stage that I'm going to be doing, which most of the bricks have arrived for, is just under here, just to complete that. You can see more of the effects of raising the castle up along here. It's a little bit more obvious where we've just got this line of bricks going all the way along here, though I have tried to break it up in a few places with various odd bricks sticking out, as well as some foliage and other slopes and things. One of the most difficult bits to work out was how the boathouse would fit in. As I've mentioned before, it's not secured by any Technic pins or anything, it just slots into place. So what I've actually done, if I come round to this side, I've actually created a angle here. Obviously this is at 45 degrees to the sides of the table here. So then I've actually used a 45-degree wedge piece there, so then the two bits just slot together very nicely. And it's almost completely seamless if we can look over there as well. So it just creates the illusion. I've done a similar thing just here, get it to focus. See, that's a 45-degree piece against that wedge plate there. For those of you asking to see how the various sections fit together, I believe I showed the courtyard and the Great Hall in the video that I made for the courtyard, but it is very simple. I'll just move the boathouse out of the way. They just use Technic pins in there, and there, which just fit into those Technic bricks just there and slide in. In actual fact, they're Technic axle pins, so that there isn't actually a solid connection. They're just basically used to guide things into position. The grand staircase tower works in a very similar way. You can just see the Technic pins there and there. Something I don't think I actually showed was the way through from this walkway here through to the courtyard. So we'll just move Dumbledore out of the way quickly. It's just my Professor Trelawney being sacked scene there. Might just be able to see through there. There is a little archway behind that door. So you go through that archway and that brings you out onto the walkway there, around there. And then when there isn't a gap there, you can get into that building. It's another very similar connection here between the grand staircase tower and the quad building, just Technic bricks and Technic axle pins. In this case, I've actually used one piece there, which is a tile, because this slides underneath there. And I didn't want the two things to stud in, and that just creates a seamless walkway. The only other connection here is the viaduct entrance building, which connects to the rest, and it connects not via Technic pins again, but just via being placed. Actually just match up where that walkway goes, so you just end up directly in front of that door. And by a happy quirk of, whether you call it fate or I won't claim that I deliberately designed it that way, these bits here line up almost perfectly. There's a tiny little gap between the wedge plates just there, if I can get it to focus. There we go. But altogether, that actually works really well. And if you look at it from any sort of angle, I think that looks absolutely fantastic. So there we have it. That's how my Hogwarts is looking at the moment. Thanks for everyone who requested another overview. I think it was definitely time to take a look back at everything that I've made so far. I am progressing with the next stages. As I mentioned, I'm working on a potions classroom as well as other bits underneath the castle at the back. I'm waiting on a couple of bricklink orders to arrive so I can complete that, but those will be my next videos. I'm also working on a design for the kitchens, now using that 7 brick height that I've got. So I'm thinking I have got the kitchens underneath the Great Hall here, and at the moment I'm thinking of putting the Hufflepuff common room underneath the courtyard, just because I know in the books it's mentioned as being in a similar direction to the kitchens, and I think that would be a nice place for it and a nice small space filler. In terms of other plans for Harry Potter themed videos, I've also been working on a design for the Hogwarts gates. This would be a standalone MOC, which I don't really have a place for at the moment, because that is actually nearer to Hogsmeade Station than it is to the castle, but I've worked that out and I would definitely like to build that fairly soon. I'm also been working on a Hogsmeade Station. That's not quite as far along in terms of progress yet, but I am excited to build that. Again, that would need to be in a separate display, so space permitting, I'll be able to create that. I'm going to continue to work round the details underneath the castle. So obviously the major project would be putting details underneath the viaduct entrance building just here, rather than the multicoloured stacks of bricks. It's just my token effort by putting that one small ugly rock piece there. And then after that, I will be working on the central tower, which will go here. In fact, I have started working on that. I've got the designs pretty much finalised, and I've actually built a very small part of it, which I will take a look at in a future video. Thank you again for watching. It's been amazing to get this far, and I'm really looking forward to what I'm going to be able to do in the future. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed. I think I'm well over 350 subscribers now, and it just seems to keep on climbing, which is amazing. So thank you everybody who's subscribed. If you'd like to see more content, then please subscribe to the channel, drop a like down below, and let me know what you think. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.